guys, we've got a fun review today because we're talking about Sonic Prime. As much as I've loved Sonic the Hedgehog growing up, whether it be watching all the TV shows, the films, playing all the various different games, I'm currently working through Sonic Frontiers, I've noticed, unfortunately, I don't really talk about Sonic the Hedgehog all that much on the channel. So I'm really glad that I finally get the opportunity to do that with Sonic Prime because that is debuting this week on Netflix. After an explosive battle with Dr. Robotnik shatters the Paradox Prism, Sonic must race through parallel dimensions, stumbling across various different versions of his friends along the way in hopes of finding his way back to his own world. Over the past few years or so, it feels like we've had a boom in popularity when it comes to applying the multiverse into media. Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, Multiverse of Madness, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Spider-Man No Way Home. And with a franchise like Sonic, it seems like that idea was inevitable to have that concept, because I think it is an idea that is ripe for the Sonic franchise. And while on the whole it is a simplified execution of doing a multiverse, Sonic Prime does manage to have an infectious charm to it. Opening up the universe, or Shatterverse as it's called here, allows for so many fun, elaborate playgrounds for Sonic to explore for these adventures, which are pretty action-packed in their own right. I was pretty impressed with the sheer volume of action set pieces in each and every episode, and just the variety that came with that. And what does help it, I think, is the animation style. I think the animation overall in Sonic Prime is pretty solid. It's really fun, it's energetic, and it perfectly captures what I want out of a Sonic series, unlike other series we've had in the past in the franchise, like Sonic Boom. My apologies to anybody out there that are big fans of Sonic Boom, and since this series is revolving around the multiverse, there is that fun added novelty to every time Sonic goes to a new world. There are various different versions of these characters that we know and love in the franchise. Each of them are so interesting and unique. You have jungle variations, more futuristic ones. My personal favorite amongst all of them are the pirate versions of these characters. All of these different variations do add a lot of entertainment level to the overarching through line of the story of finding all the different shards of the Paradox Prism while incorporating these mini adventures within all these different worlds. You can definitely tell the writers are having a lot of fun naming these different multiverse counterparts to these iconic heroes like Knuckles the Dread or Baton Rouge or Rusty Rose. Unfortunately for me, since he is one of my favorite characters of the franchise, there's not a whole lot of Shadow the Hedgehog going around in Season 1. He's kind of used on a more sporadic basis, and a lot of his stuff is kind of shrouded in mystery that kind of unravels as the series goes on. With the very few times that we do see him interact with Sonic over the course of the series, but hopefully next season he's going to be a much more predominant role in the cast. As much enjoyment as I got out of watching Sonic Prime from start to finish, I couldn't help but be a little bit disappointed as a longtime fan of the Sonic franchise, and I'm sure others will be as well, that all of the characters are not voiced by the people that we are familiar with from the franchise. There's no Roger Craig Smith, no Colleen Joe Shaughnessy, no Cindy Robinson. It's all completely different actors, and it kind of reminds me a lot of the War for Cybertron series, the Transformers show on Netflix that didn't have any of the iconic actors for that either. Not entirely sure why they didn't return or reprise their roles in this. I don't know if it was a money thing or they were busy with other things because all these people are voicing their characters in Sonic Frontiers, but it is noticeable that they all sound very different. But I do think this new voice cast they put in place for Sonic Prime is serviceable at the very least. Despite the subtle variations occasionally with their voice performances, most of them aren't asked to add much nuance to their characters other than Sonic. I actually really like the actor that voices Sonic in this, Devin Mack. He kind of reminds me a lot of Jason Griffith, one of the other actors that voices Sonic in the past. The Sonic is the best part of this show, and I think he brought a lot to his vocal performance, delivering so many quick-witted, fun, quippy dialogue moments, mostly directed at Eggman and the Chaos Council, who are the main central antagonists to Sonic Prime. The Chaos Council is your very standard, stereotypical Sonic villain. I mean, it is Eggman, of course, but there's an eclectic group of other Eggmen along the way in this council. There are some old ones, there are some more like emo, goth-looking versions of ones. My personal favorite, though, was Dr. Babbles, this baby version of Eggman. Anytime that character was on screen in his Simon Says robot, I was laughing so hard. He was the best one, at least in my opinion, besides the original Eggman. Not gonna lie, I don't think it's completely fair to compare the multiverse aspects of things like Multiverse of Madness, Into the Spider-Verse, Everything Everywhere All at Once with Sonic Prime, but since we have seen how awesome you can make a multiverse in the right setting, I did leave a little bit wanting more from Sonic Prime. It could be that this season mainly focuses on setup with not a lot of time to execute said setup or the race to get Prism Shards, but despite bouncing to different worlds every few episodes, it does feel light on story, even at times feeling a bit repetitive with its formula. It's very rinse and repeat. Sonic lands in a new world, has to get accustomed to the new world, has a mini adventure, ends up getting a Prism Shard, and goes to another world world, and that cycle continues over the course of the entire season. There's not really a whole lot of variety in that aspect. The most fun novelty comes from these mini adventures in seeing the different versions of the characters. There's not very much character development going around because it is different characters every few episodes, other than Sonic, of course. Another major factor is I think that the pacing of the show is way too fast, which is kind of fitting because this is Sonic the Hedgehog after all, but it's 8 episodes, and other than the very first episode being over 40 minutes long, all the other ones, the other 7, they're barely even 20 minutes long, and they end in very weird places. It almost feels like a very unnatural cutoff. Even the finale, it doesn't feel like a finale with the way that it cuts off. It feels like there should be another episode attached to it. I don't know, it just could be me, but I feel like the structure of the story in general is off. It feels like they're trying to cram in a whole lot of backstory, and they don't know how to incorporate it correctly because we're having these adventures in the multiverse, and we keep cutting back to the before times, before Sonic shattered this prism. It's just kind of weird structurally. I know this is supposed to have multiple seasons, so we'll see how they continue to flesh out the story over the course of those said seasons. All in all, Sonic Prime starts off as a somewhat solid setup for many seasons to come. It's lighthearted, fast-paced, and besides a few issues that can easily be improved upon in follow-up seasons, it's enjoyable enough time for fans of the Sonic franchise. I don't know if it'll win people over per se. If you're already a fan of Sonic, you're probably going to watch the show regardless, but it's decent enough. I think it's better than at least Sonic Boom as far as recent shows go. I think Sonic X still is my favorite among all of the various Sonic shows, but, you know, we'll see. There's still a lot to be determined for Sonic Prime. But now you've heard my thoughts on Sonic Prime. It hits Netflix December 15th, so make sure you share your thoughts down below once you get a chance to check out the series. Do you like Sonic Prime? Do you not like Sonic Prime? If you're a longtime Sonic fan, how are you feeling about this series so far when it comes to the voice acting and the story itself? And where do you think we're going to go with future seasons, because there's definitely going to be some more seasons of this with the way that we end off episode 8. So make sure you share all those thoughts down below, and thank you guys for sharing the reviews. I always do appreciate it. Be sure to like on the video, and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Next time, I'll see you guys later.